Okay, so why don't we get started? And let me first just welcome everybody on the call. It's good to see a good turnout here. This is being recorded, so everybody will be aware of that. I'm Terry Kramer. I'm the faculty director at the Easton Center, and I've got two of my colleagues on the call as well. Heather, who's our program director, and Dorina, who's our program manager. And actually, as we get into the comments a little bit further in, I'll turn it over to them to cover some specific items for you. You know, I always like to start out in any presentation just starting a bit about context. In this case, context about technology and why I think that's so important from a leadership standpoint to understand the trends and understand how do you navigate in a technology-driven world. So I'm going to give you a bit of context on that. I'd then like to talk about the Easton Center specifically and some of the things happening there. By the way, I think we're getting a little bit of feedback. If you guys don't mind muting, you have a question, that'd be great. Okay, good. I think that's good. So as I mentioned, I'm going to cover context. I'm then going to talk a little bit about the Easton Center. I'll talk about points of engagement, where you can engage with the Easton Center. And then I'm going to have Heather and Dorina talk more specifically about the Easton certificate. And then any way along, you've got questions, let us know. And certainly at the very end, we'll have time for more detailed questions. So let me start out here. And I'm going to just get into the bit of a context here first. And I always start with a slide that just talks a little bit about history of where we are in technology and where we are today and why that matters in terms of education. So in the 80s was a big era of the PCs, unconnected PCs, but the very beginning of automation. We then entered a period of the 90s and mid-2000s when the internet explosion happened, when the PCs basically were connected for commerce, for email, for social media, for a whole variety of applications. And then we shifted, and specifically in 2007 was the beginning of the smartphone revolution. And as many of you know, this started with the iPhone, and then all of the domino effects that happened with smartphones. So iOS, which is the operating system for Apple, Android, which was the response by Google, and really what started again was a whole phase that people could now say more and more, whatever they do at home or office, they could do on their smartphones. And then that has led to really where we are today, which is now the beginning signs that say that smartphones are kind of hitting their maturation point, and we're now entering the era of artificial intelligence and machine learning, where all of the data that has come off of a variety of applications, a variety of devices, and we'll cover some of those in a minute, now create the opportunity to understand data, understand the implications of it. And that's where a lot of the focus now of the Easton Center is where's that innovation happening and where are things going from here. So now what are some of the key technology trends today? And these are the technologies that then will enable a variety of applications I'll talk about in the next slide. But the first piece is that mobile networks are getting faster and faster. And actually the latest applications now are 5th generation networks that are anywhere from 10 to 100 times faster than 4th generation networks. So basically think about mobile connections faster than 1 gigabit per second. The other thing just to mention is in a lot of markets that are still developing in nature, there's a rapid introduction of 4th generation technology. So as an example, looking in India, Reliance, which is one of the newest, fastest growing mobile operators with their service name of Jio, has now got 350 million users in India with 4th generation service. So lots of internet access. Second big trend has been the Internet of Things. And this is the whole idea about connected devices, whether those be cars, whether it be wearable devices on our bodies, whether it be buildings, etc. It's all the idea that there will be tens of billions of connected devices that in turn will yield a variety of information and provide for certain applications that I'll talk about in a minute. The third area is efficient and high performance cloud computing. So when you think about companies like AWS, part of Amazon, you think about companies like Azure that are part of Microsoft, the ability now for people to access their information wherever they are, the ability for very small companies to be able to set themselves up without having to make big investments in IT infrastructure has been a major advance. And then the final area is in the whole creation, role, and value of data and artificial intelligence. The fact that now there's availability of data, there's the ability to analyze data, and most importantly, the ability to predict certain events, predict people's trends via recommendation engines, the ability to predict traffic patterns that would power autonomous vehicles, a whole set of applications there. So these are some of the most critical technology trends. Now, what does all of that lead to? That leads to literally transformational innovation. Innovation that is affecting the structure of industries and disrupting industries. So what are some of these innovations? Autonomous vehicles. Autonomous vehicles within the next 10 to 15 years, in many cases, will have the ability for somebody not to have to drive at all. And the whole idea about transportation where somebody will sit in a vehicle that literally will not need to have a steering wheel, and thinking of all the applications that that enables. People being able to be entertained in a car while commuting. People being able to engage in commercial activities. People being able to work. There's a whole host of applications, and this is one of the reasons why there's so much money being invested, because the use cases are so attractive. Second main area are virtual assistants. So when you think about Siri on your iPhone as an example, if you put Siri on steroids and basically said that you could be able to speak to Siri, that Siri could understand and contextualize and personalize who you are, knowing who you are, where you are, what you buy, why you're calling, etc., that literally could power call center activities without any need for human beings. This could eventually create a fully kind of closed set of transactions on a mobile device when calling Siri. Siri, tell me where the best Indian restaurant is. It would go into Yelp or whatever application people like to establish their ratings. Understand the best restaurant, go to OpenTable, make a reservation, and close the transaction. All of this requires a lot of data and analysis of data, but huge application. Third area is voice-based internet. So we all tend to think about we access the internet via texting and typing today. But more and more with applications like Siri, when you think about applications like Alexa via Amazon, and when you think of markets, again, like India, where you're having a huge increase in the amount of internet access, where there might be literacy issues in some parts of a country, where voice-based interaction will all of a sudden enable access to the internet, that will change how people use the internet. A whole set of diagnostic tools and recommendation engines would be another manifestation of data. So IBM Watson or Google Health, that over time will have the ability to look at genetic information, look at IoT, so wearable devices in current health state, being able to look at clinical trials of certain procedures, of certain pharmaceuticals, and based on all of that, to be able to better diagnose whether somebody is likely to experience cardiovascular disease, experience certain types of cancers, etc. Next area of innovation, quint plays and streaming. So with fifth generation networks, the ability to stream content literally in seconds is going to be a daily event. A manifestation of this, again, is AT&T buying Time Warner a year or so ago in unique forms of mobile video content. And now what is appearing to be a streaming war. The final item is the next billion internet users. There are still about 3 billion people in the world that don't have internet access. They may have a phone for basic voice and texting, but they don't have internet access. So players like Jio in India are changing the story. Players like Google Loon, who are creating balloons that can focus internet access in parts of the world that don't have it, is creating a new wave of growth for internet users. So that's a bit about technology. That's a bit about the innovation that's happening. Why does all this matter? And then we'll get into the Easton Center. Is to me, the technology trends that I just talked about and the related innovation are fundamentally affecting leadership and leadership imperatives. The ability to spot promising areas of innovation, knowing that you have cloud computing, knowing that you have Internet of Things, knowing that you have artificial intelligence, the ability to analyze data, that ability to say, I'm going to invest in this area and not in that area. That I think this area is going to be large because of the amount of value that I see in the use case and the ability for users to adopt. That is going to be a fundamental leadership task in almost every industry. The ability and applications of technology to drive commercial success and avoid disruption. So many established businesses and industries, so automotive industry, healthcare, financial services, education, etc., are going to be disrupted in many applications where they're going to be new players or new, quote unquote, new competitors like Google and Amazon, etc. They're going to seek to move into industries laterally and disrupt them. The ability of somebody in an established industry to say, I've seen this playbook, I understand what the risks are, and this is how I'm going to prepare my company for this, is going to be an important leadership skill. Also, the ability to say, what if you want to be the disruptor? If you want to move into a new area, if you're at Google and you want to move into autonomous vehicles via Waymo, how might you best do that? Third area is the whole area of competitive dynamics. So this is the Michael Porter area, this is the Clay Christensen area that says, I want to move into a new area, what does it take to win? Or if I'm an established player and I know that somebody's going to try and disrupt me, how do I need to change my skills, my assets to ensure that I can win in the future? So that whole idea about understanding what it takes to win. Fourth area here is how do you resource an organization to succeed? What organizational structure, what talent do you need, what culture do you need? Many tech companies, current disruptive tech companies, have very agile cultures. They have cultures that are willing to throw things out, see if consumers adopt. If they don't, they redefine and move on. They have very data-oriented cultures where data drives decision-making as opposed to gut and intuition. And that ability to understand that matters a lot. And then the final area are societal implications. For all the great things that technology can do to help address societal issues in healthcare and transportation, there's more and more what is being called today techlash or backlash against big tech companies. And that shows up in the form of data privacy. It shows up in the form of antitrust issues. It shows up in the form of internet governance rules about who can control the internet. It shows up in a digital divide. It shows up in the future of work about what's going to happen in employment as many of these applications advance. And your ability as a leader to say, how do I navigate from a public policy and a societal standpoint to ensure I can advance my innovation and not have such massive headwinds that prevent you from progressing. So this gets to the Easton Center, and this is a bit of the drum roll, but the lead-in and the context to the Easton Center. So the Easton Center, the mission at the core is leadership preparedness in a technology-driven world. When I took on this role about a year and a half ago, the mission of the Easton Center very much was oriented around preparing people to go into tech jobs. Have them go work at Google and Microsoft and Amazon and Facebook, etc. As we are today, there's almost no role, no industry that isn't affected by technology. And so we modified the mission statement to say leadership preparedness in a world that's driven by technology. Regardless of sector, regardless of role, are we really preparing our students and in an ongoing relationship with our alumni able to ensure their success long-term, understanding technology trends, innovation, implications on business models, et cetera, et cetera. So what are the opportunities for all of you to engage with the Easton Center? There are a variety of them. Number one, we have a variety of events. These are conferences, these are workshops, executives that come speak that you can come and join. We have a big Innovate conference that's coming up on January 24th. That's everything tech, enterprise tech, consumer tech, tech and society. We have a variety of partnership activities that we've got. One of the ones coming up, and I'll talk about in more detail is the WOO conference run by the Center for Global Management that is for this year coming up in April 2020, going to be oriented all about technology in China. So there are a variety of events that we've got that we would encourage you to attend if you have the interest. There's a variety of courses you can take, and I'll cover those again in a minute, that do a deep dive in a certain domain and a certain functional area like strategy and entrepreneurship, so that you can really understand more and more what is happening in technology, and again, how does that affect leadership capabilities. We have a variety of workshops. These are often evening programs. They can be in areas like product management or in areas like cybersecurity, which are more specific in nature, that allow students to understand more and more, again, what's going on in a domain and what are the leadership issues required in that area. We have a mentoring program, and matter of fact, the mentoring program is something that a group of our Easton Fellows, a half dozen students selected, are going to be developing a platform that would connect recent alums with alums that have been out for a while to start really building that Anderson connection and preparing people more and more for understanding what they need to do to advance in a technology-based world. It also, over time, will help address, and this is going to be years and years away for all of you, but as people get further into their careers, more and more the mindset now is there needs to be reverse mentoring. So people that have been in their careers for a while need to understand what are some of the latest technologies. How does a millennial generation think about the use of data and interactions on commercial activities, et cetera, et cetera. We have an Easton certificate, so if you want to get even more detailed, more focused, and get basically a qualification or insignia as part of your graduation, you can take a set of courses that basically say you've got a deep dive, you've had a special amount of exposure to the programs we have at the Easton Center, courses, etc., and we'll describe that in a little bit more detail in a minute. We also have, for regular interactions of latest news activity, we have Tech Talk at Anderson, which basically is a user group on LinkedIn that you can join that allows you to read announcements about, cool things going on in industry. So some of the things that get announced by Google Health, things that get announced by Cruise as part of their autonomous vehicle capabilities, what's going on in China in artificial intelligence that has implications in the US. And that's something where you can post articles and share your views, and you can also read other ones that have been posted. And then the final thing is an innovation challenge, which is a flagship project of the Easton Center that's really looking to say, how can we take a promising technology and apply it to an area of societal need? And our first kind of hypothesis is this is going to be oriented around healthcare. How can we use some of the technologies available in 5G, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and address a societal need in healthcare that might reduce the cost of access to healthcare, might improve diagnostic outcomes, etc. And in turn, what are the learnings that come out of that? How do you manage innovation on an interdisciplinary basis? That's another area that if you have interest, you can become part of that to submit ideas. You can be part of a working group there. You can help advise us on the construct of this program, etc. You'll see a couple of websites listed below if you want to get more information on any of the items that I talked about. So let me just cover this slide and I'll turn it over to Heather and Dorina. The Easton certificate, as I referenced, is an area to do a much deeper dive that really creates a graduation stamp that allows you to say that, listen, I've taken a bunch of courses and attended a bunch of programs that's allowed me to understand in a much deeper way about technology. The curriculum in the Easton certificate requires you to take technology management. This is a course that I teach. I teach 2 sections of this in the winter, and then I have a flex format of it in the summer. We also have a set of electives that you basically can choose from that area that look at, and primarily on a vertical basis, where technology is advancing. So in media, in healthcare, there's a deeper dive we have in cloud computing and big data. We have a course in artificial intelligence. We have a course that's more horizontal in nature on product management. So how do you become a good product manager? We have a course I also teach on the mobile industry, where I came from originally at Vodafone, that looks at how that industry has evolved and what is the latest innovation, and how do you as a leader think about navigating the maturation points in an industry to ensure you stay vibrant and relevant. There's a variety of guest speakers that we have. And one item I always like to call out is, more and more we're really focusing our courses on the intersection of what I would call vertical and horizontal issues. Vertical issues are, what are the latest things coming out in healthcare and media, product service related that are tech oriented. But I think most importantly are the things that are horizontal in nature. These are the leadership oriented issues. Can you spot promising innovation? Can you think about what it takes to win? Can you understand how you monetize and how business models affect economic outcomes? Can you think about how you deal with public officials so that public policy is relevant? The reason why I like horizontal issues so much is they are much more timeless in nature than just what is the healthcare industry or media doing today with streaming solutions or some new diagnostic tool. It's important to make sure you've got the foundational capability in horizontal leadership issues. So what are some of the initiatives that we've got? The Innovation Challenge and Tech Talk I've talked about. There's a variety of outreach activities where we will have events. We had one with the global immersion program I led in China that was focused on what are the outcomes and learnings there. And then we have a series of Easton Fellows that are working on this mentoring platform that I referenced, and also an alumni weekend. Let me now turn it over to my colleagues to talk about the Easton Center certificate more specifically and what that requires and entails. Heather and Doreen, over to you.
Yeah, so I can start talking about that a little bit. I just wanted to make one thing clear. So the slide that showed the electives, those are just the Management 275 courses, which are the Easton courses. There are other electives that do qualify for the certificate. Those were just the Easton ones, the Management 275 ones. So the best place to get information is the tracking document. So once you sign up to be part of the Easton Center, on that last page, you should already have access to that document. And if you don't, you can email the Easton Center, email me, and I can send you the link to it. And you'll notice that there's multiple tabs. The first tab is to actually track your progress. And then the other tabs there are to show you which electives count, and then also how to satisfy the other requirements like the service activity or anything like that. As EMBA students, you don't have to do enrichment activities. So that is you'll see that on the tracking document that's blacked out for you. And you also obviously don't have to do a summer internship. And as EMBA students, because we know that your schedules are much more limited than other students, you are allowed to watch 2 previously recorded speaker events and 2 previously recorded workshops, and then submit write-ups for each, instead of actually coming physically and attending all 3 of each. I think other than, I don't know if anyone has any questions that they want to ask at this point. I don't know if we should open up to questions now. Because other than that, I don't really have anything specific to say other than what's already on here.
So this slide is just showing what Dorina referenced, which is the courses that Terry talked about were sort of the Easton sponsored courses. So those are very specific to technology management, and those are courses where the Easton Center finds the lecturer or the faculty member to teach it, and really, based on Terry's thought process and feedback from the various programs, what people want to hear about. In addition, there are a lot of electives through, the Price Center and other places where we feel that their courses really are still continuing to give you a management background in technology. So these are all the other electives that count towards the certification.
And I don't know if these are necessarily all offered at EMBA friendly times, but that tracking document, it has a specific sheet for EMBA students, so that it'll only have the electives that are offered this year that are in EMBA friendly times. But if you're able to take any of the other FEMBA or full-time classes, you're welcome to. Yeah, so out of these, the only thing that EMBA students would still need to do is a service activity. And that typically students will volunteer at an event at the registration table, or doing some kind of social media for us during the event. If that's not possible, we can work something out also. You can also introduce us to a potential speaker or a potential mentor or something like that if you have a colleague or someone that you work with that you think would be able to do that. Or somebody to lead a workshop, anything like that where we can kind of build a new relationship with someone, we could use that as a service activity as well.
So did you want me to cover these, Heather and Dorina, or would you guys like to?
You can go ahead and cover them.
Okay, so let me just, and I referred to this a bit earlier, but January 24th is our Innovate conference. So our keynote speaker, by the way, there is going to be Tammy Irwin, who's the group CEO of Verizon Enterprise. So all the enterprise and government business is what Tammy runs. And then we have a series of other people that are in a consumer track, an enterprise track, and now a technology and society track, from companies like Google, Disney, Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. So encourage you to go to that. It allows you, again, to get up to speed on key developments and also understand leadership imperatives. I also mentioned the WOO conference, which is run by the Center for Global Management. We are now partnering more and more with the Center for Global Management on a greater focus on global technology trends. One of the things that's becoming more and more clear is developments specifically in China, somewhat in India and other parts of the world, we need to be more and more aware of here, because there's leapfrog technology going on in China. For example, in the area of 5G and mobile payments, you'll see some real leapfrog activities. So the focus of the conference this year is going to be all about technology and society in China. Whereas it might have been more real estate oriented, finance oriented in previous years, it's going to have an exclusive focus on technology. So encourage you to attend that. And then winter quarter and spring quarter, we have executive speakers that we will be announcing in the next few weeks, that we do sessions in Cornhall, usually at about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, so that we can have a variety of students attend. So let me just leave you with the last thought again here, and it's the mission of the center, and then we'll open up to any questions that you have. Leadership preparedness in a technology-driven world. The whole idea that technology is changing and the related applications at a much more rapid rate, that the ability of leaders and the requirements are changing, and actually the outcomes are broadening. More great outcomes can happen when you look at people that run unicorns and are successfully positioning their companies, and more cases of companies that candidly are getting disrupted and crashing and burning. And this, to me, is partly what makes this Easton Center and what we do so interesting, is it's an incredibly strong kind of environment to really test leadership and leadership preparedness. So let me stop on all that and see what questions that I can answer, or Heather, or Dorina.
Hey, Cherry, I have a question here. This is Suganya Nehru from EMBA.
Yes.
So when you say about the quarter guest speakers will be in the evenings, knowing that we are actually away from the campus most of the time, will we be able to join through Zoom sessions or webinar sessions like this, or will we have to be present in person?
Yeah, Dorina, do you know, are we doing Zoom now? I know we're recording them, but are we making them for live streaming as well?
We don't make them for live streaming, but we do record them. So you'll be able to watch it afterwards and then submit a write-up to get attendance credit.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good. A couple examples, by the way. The speakers we had last year was Jitu Patel, who's the Chief Product and Strategy Officer at Box, and then John Chen, who's the President CEO at BlackBerry. So some really interesting people there.
Hi, this is Bess. Regarding attending the workshops and conferences and doing the write-up, is there a kind of template or expectation on, like, amount of content we're supposed to turn in?
So for workshops, we just ask for like a long paragraph. It doesn't have to be too long. Honestly, it's more just so that we can see what you feel like you can actually take away and use in your career from the workshop that you learned. For speakers, I would say like 1.5 pages, maybe something like that, 2 pages. It doesn't have to be, it's honestly not necessarily about the length. It's more just that we want to see what exactly about that speaker resonated with you and what you, whether you liked it or whether you didn't like it, and just to see what your, I guess, reaction to it is, and what you feel like you can actually take away with you from it.
Yeah, and let me just underscore that, Vest, because one of the things we're trying to do in all of our conferences, and Heather's smiling because I do this in all of my classes, is ask you what are the so whats that you took away from that session, that event. And let me give you a 30-second story on why this is important, because I used to work at Vodafone, and the CEO was a guy named Arun Serene, who is somebody that had lived and worked all over the world and had an incredibly keen kind of ability to understand what matters. And when anybody presented to him, he would ask in a PowerPoint deck, whether it was on a page or the whole document, what is the so what? And what he was looking for is the ability to distill down lots of information into the most salient issue that's relevant to whatever is the issue at hand. So to me, it's a bit, if you're in any of my classes, you'll see this with a case method. That ability to identify the so what is key. And I find that is highly correlated to doing well in a leadership role, because leaders get confronted with more and more information, and their ability to drive down to what matters out of 15 items. Not all items are equally weighted. 1 or 2 have got a 80% weighting. Your ability to do that matters. So that's what we're looking for ideally when you do a write-up, is that you've got those type of insights. And then if you really want to impress me, Vess, you can do that in 10 pages, and you can do so what's on 18 things. But other than that, just one good so what will work.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Is it possible to find out you guys' office hour? Because for some EMBA student, maybe it will be more convenient if we can meet on Friday or even Saturday to get more information from you guys.
Yeah, for you, via office hours?
Yeah, so I would say we don't have set office hours per se. But the office is always open, and generally between 8:30 and 5 at least, there's always someone in the office. And certainly, Dorina and I can make ourselves very available. This is Heather. I live very close to UCLA and am super reachable on email. And so if you ever want to have an in-person meeting, either later in the evening or on a Saturday, to discuss something, I'm absolutely open to that. So, you know, generally pop-bys, the office are perfectly fine, but I'm happy to do things in a more EMBA friendly way in terms of either phone calls or in-person stuff later or on Saturdays as well.
But we're not, but just like to clarify, we're not in the office on weekends.
No, but I can make
in case any
exceptions.
students thought we're not in the office. We would have to be scheduled to do, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't do a pop-by on a Saturday.
Yeah, don't do a pop-by on a Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Friday would be the overlap though with the EMBA schedule, right?
Yeah. All day Friday, people are there for sure.
Yeah.
And all the electives, those classes usually is in the weekend, or I noticed there's some classes that you offered actually is the weekday.
So if you on that tracking document, there's a tab that says MBA and FEMBA course options. Those are going to be, because for full-time and FEMBA students, it's different schedules than for EMBA students. The EMBA tab shows for EMBA students specifically. I can't say I know exactly when those are offered, but they are based on the EMBA schedule that I was sent. So it's not, those are not the full-time and FEMBA classes.
And we definitely have a significant number of EMBAs who do get the technology management certification. And so we know that your program managers have worked with our center to figure out stuff that works for your particular program.
Thank you.
And the program managers all have the updated electives based on the proposed courses list. So if you feel more comfortable coming, if you know them more, they have the information as well for all the electives that count.
Good. Other questions we can answer?
So if you're doing global management and that course, some of those courses also is listed here. I think if there is an overlap, you can do a double counting for like 2 certificates, right?
We don't have a problem with that as long as the other, we don't mind, we don't care about overlapping.
Okay.
Just make sure with the other center that they don't care as well, but we don't.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions we can answer for you? Heather, Doreen, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't have anything.
I think you covered it, and really, you know, email us or stop by the center if you have additional questions.
Oh, someone did chat just now. She's just asking how to sign up. If you actually go to our website and scroll down on the homepage, it says for students to get on the newsletter. If you just click that link, you just need to fill out the information on that form, and then you'll be added to our mailing list and the tracking document. If you for some reason can't find it, just email easton@anderson.ucla.edu and we can send you the link.
Yeah, and also they should let the program manager know, right? So they would be adding that to their CCLE.
For you to let the EMBA program manager know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably have to let them know just so that they can track it as well, yeah. But on our end, for us to start tracking requirements and things like that and to get on the mailing list, you do have to fill out that form.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think that was it though, because there was just that one chat that came that I saw.
Okay. Anything else we can answer for anybody? Okay, so seeing them, let me just thank you for your interest, a bunch of great questions. And like always, if you have areas that you've got special interest in or suggestions for us, please let us know. This is a center that we're continuing to evolve what we're doing and trying to broaden our impact. So anything that we can be doing, please let us know. And great to see again your interest in this. Hope to see you on campus and in class. And Heather and Darina, thank you for being part of this.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.